Hi guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome to another edition of Rate the Transfer Rumour show. Yes, that's the show that rates the transfer rumour. Delighted to see Sean back with us again. Sean, how are you? Cold down in Waterford.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly, all right. But aside from that, good. Well, I have to say now, I didn't appreciate Daz's comments now on the last rated transfer. So we're gonna be so the next Irish Footy Vlogs video is gonna be myself and Daz fighting.
That's
Uh,
what I said. We're gonna have to get the
Winner.
twos on for one of
Yeah.
these at some point. So that'll be good for the crack.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll see
Mm,
how we do that, but we'll do it somehow. The people
yeah.
have been requesting that, I think, as well. So we'll have to do that at
Mm.
some point. Right, so we're going to write the first rumour up. There's a couple of goalkeepers in here just to warn people. It's goalkeeper heavy, but we've got five rumours, not all
Mm.
goalkeepers. Rumour number one is an interesting one. That's Ed McGinty from this Rovers. Yes, they are known as
Mm.
Rovers, Liga Rovers, so the bitter red don't come at me. Been linked to a move to the other Rovers, Shamrock Rovers. McGinty obviously on loan with Sligo Rovers this season. His contract will be up there. Shamrock Rovers are clearly looking for another goalkeeper. Brian Maher seemed to be the one they were going for, but in recent times, allegedly elsewhere anyway, and McGinty has been mentioned, which has surprised me personally anyway. But how would you see that rumor?
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, he wouldn't be the first player to make that move. You talk about Johnny Kenny as well, also being at Rovers with a similar trajectory. Um, There was talk, actually, I remember that McGinty was going to go back earlier in the season to Oxford because they had a crisis at the goalkeeper position. I think one or two of their players at that position got injured. So he's definitely got the pedigree, and I think as well as that, Leon Pope, he's been good in fairness for Rovers. He hasn't been a total letdown, but they
Hmm.
could clearly do better. They
Hmm.
missed Alan Manis this season as well. I think that was a big reason why they didn't win the league this year.
Hmm.
So they'll be looking for someone of his quality, and Ed McGinty'd certainly be a fit.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose it surprises me because like I've heard in a few quarters, fairly I would say reliable quarters, that he'd have no interest in moving to Dublin. So that's just the interesting point with me. But who's to say? You don't know what money can do to a person either. So, but who knows? But yeah. So how are you seeing this as a rating out of 10?
I think it makes a lot of sense for Rovers, but there's the stuff as you mentioned with Brian Maher first that seems to be ebbing away. But
Hmm.
uh, the interest in the player personally is a lot, and it's really about as close to a 50-50 as far as it will happen or won't happen as I could think of. I'm going to give this in line with that a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I think I'd be surprised if they didn't get Mar or McGinty and someone else came to the equation, if I'm honest with you. Staying on the goalkeeper scenario, and these ones are linked, the next two, but we'll start with this one. Sam Sargent has recently left Waterford FC. There's been talk that he might go back to England, etc., etc. But a certain Cork City are looking for a goalkeeper, Sean, after uh, Wade left the club. Could Sam Sargent do the unthinkable from your point of view and move from Waterford to your Munster rivals, Cork City?
Well, if he has any sense, he won't, because the last player to do that saw his
Yeah.
career fall off a cliff after he made that move.
Should we name
So,
names? Maybe not.
well, I think everybody knows who he is.
Well, I think
I won't.
The Cork
Yeah.
fans will be able to put two and two together here.
Mm. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that might scare them off it. Um, I suppose. Yeah, I was surprised, all right, because it seemed like for all the positions that Cork needed to improve on heading into the Premier Division, goalkeeper seemed to be not such a high priority. So I'm kind of surprised that they got rid of the two that they had, Brad Wade and Aidan Dowling.
I do
Surprised that they got
wonder
rid of the
myself,
two.
Sean, if Wade wanted to leave. I'm not sure, but I do wonder if that
Yeah.
could be the case as well. Maybe they had no choice. I'm not too sure on that one.
Hmm. Yeah, well, if that is the case, it would
Yeah.
make a lot of sense because he appeared like really comfortable. I mean, Cork ran away with the first division, and
Mm.
Brad Wade, he looked very comfortably the best keeper in that division.
And I also know that Tim
Uh,
Clancy previously wanted to take him actually to St. Patrick's Athletic, so I'd be
mm,
very surprised if Tim didn't want to take him into the Premier Division again with Cork, you know, that kind of
mm.
way.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing of Sargent moving to Cork. He's got a lot. He's got a lot going for him. In fairness, he's big bodied. He's a great shot stopper. He commands the box quite well.
Hmm.
Um, the little bit shaky maybe with his distribution with the ball at his feet. But he would be a solid signing for Cork. As far as likelihood of it happening goes, not sure.
What are you going to give it out of 10?
I think I would fancy Sam Sargent to make the move back to England. That seems to be where he was going. So I'm going to say this is unlikely. I give it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think he's more likely to go back to England, but be interesting to see on that one. Now, when I said the next two were linked, now suddenly Waterford FC are looking for a goalkeeper, of course, and there's a certain number 2 at Bohemians that technically is a number 1 goalkeeper. I can't see Bohemians going the season with Tereska and Mr. James Talbot as their 2 goalkeepers as such. You know what I mean? I think one of them would have to go. Tereska's only signed a contract recently. Waterford, as I say, are looking for a goalkeeper. Keith Long has worked with James Talbot. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it does make a lot of sense, especially with the Keith Long link there. He's a very talented goalkeeper. Obviously, James Talbot. He took some time off at the start of this season, and unfortunately for him, that allowed Kasper Tereska into the number 1 lineup, and he's been you can't blame Bowes for sticking with him. He's been the one player who hasn't let them down. He's been very consistent all season. I do like this move from a Waterford perspective. I think Talbot would be a really smart signing. There's not a whole lot else I can say really about it.
I'd argue he'd be. I know you're saying about Sargent there previously, and I do think he's a good. I'd argue that an on-form James Talbot is an upgrade. Actually, I'd argue.
Yeah, if you could get him playing at his best, yeah, absolutely. He'd be a really good addition to the squad. I mean, definitely be one of the better keepers in the League of Ireland.
He's definitely I don't see many clubs that could have 2 goalkeepers of that ilk on their books either in the League of Ireland, and he's a goalkeeper that needs to be playing first team football. Now he could argue to himself, Tereska, bit of bad form, gets injured, he can get back into the team, but he wants to be guaranteed, I'm sure, playing football. So how would you rate this one out of 10?
I rate this one. I've seen it before, so I'm a little bit more confident that it could happen. So I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10, James Talbot to Waterford FC. Now, the last 2 aren't goalkeepers, people will be pleased to know. And this one, he's been linked to a couple of clubs, but more recently, Richie Towell at Shamrock Rovers has been linked with a move to Damien Duff's Shelbourne. Now, Damien Duff has got Sean Gannon, who's 33, by the way, the same age as Mr. Towell from Shamrock Rovers previously, and he's obviously been a massive success, Sean. Towell is definitely leaving Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock Rovers, he's had a row with Stephen Bradley. Bradley won't let him anywhere near the squad. Basically, it's been well documented. There's nothing, outlandish about saying that. It's a fact. So Towell will be leaving. Pats have been linked as well. I'm not really too sure how he'd fit in at Pats personally, but anyway. But how would you see with a move, or Richie Towell, I should say, how would you see him moving the Shells? Would you say that's realistic? Do you think it's possible?
It could happen. I think he's more likely to move to. I think it's likely that he does move to another Dublin club. But he's clearly very talented. But with the falling out with Bradley, you question his character or his motivation to play at League of Ireland Premier Division level. I mean, I think that may have been a problem for him when he went over to England. He said that he would not play below, I think it was League One, but he said he wouldn't play below a certain level, which it was a bit of a red flag. I don't know how see. He could be a really good player for that Shelbourne team, and of course he give him a whole new dimension in midfield. But Damien Duff is the kind of manager, if Towell isn't doing what he wants him to do, he could be out in his arse even a couple of weeks into the season. So it's a high risk, high reward move if it does go through.
Yeah, my feeling with it as well, just quickly in relation to the links with Pats, is that I don't see him necessarily guaranteed to get into the St. Patrick's League starting 11. I think that's one of the issues of Shamrock Rovers, that he's not guaranteed as such to get in. So it would be a bit like, for him personally, I think if he moved from Rovers to Pats, would the same problems arise then at Pats with him, because he's not guaranteed to get in? His position would be where Brandon Kavanagh is, and there's still a possibility Pats sign Romal Palmer. So if that happens, then he doesn't fit anywhere in my view. So that's why I find those links a little bit odd. With Shells, you might argue there's maybe more of an opportunity there. And might see more of a chance to get in the first team in a certain spot, maybe in a midfield role, as in maybe you could play a little bit deeper. Maybe Shells could play three-man midfield and he could play in there as well, maybe. And Duff has this knack of, in the last couple of years, taking players that maybe have been struggling and improving them. Sean Gannon, for example, at Shamrock Rovers. So that's the interesting facet from my point of view. How do you see this one out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 4 just because for all the flaws I mentioned, I will reiterate there's a lot of potential here if it does work out. But that's a really big if. There's no mediocre success or halfway point with this. This is either a brilliant strategic move or a total failure.
So Richie Towell to Shelbourne, a 4 out of 10. Now finally, this is a player who is linked to a move to Dalymount Park and Bohemians, and Bows have already brought in a striker, Colin Whelan, but they're looking at another striker. Scored 2 goals in the Cup against Bohemians. Can you guess the player, actually?
Oh, God. I can't even remember who Bows lost.
13 goals in the First Division.
13 goals in the First Division. Ryan Kelleher, of course.
There you go. You got it. Well done. 23-year-old... 13 goals in the league, but a couple of goals in the Cup, and as I mentioned, two against Bowls as well. Be a big move for him, wouldn't it? But how do you see that move to the Gypsies?
I'm a really big fan of Ryan Kelleher, actually. Yeah. I mean, if I could take a punt on any player in the First Division, like if you got like a blank check, let's say, and you could take a punt on any player in the First Division, I'd probably try and get Ryan Kelleher because I think he has potential. The only problem is he hasn't played at this level before, at Premier Division level. But he didn't look out of place in that Cup game against Bows. I think he was the top scorer actually in the First Division this year. Yeah, and that was the Kerry team that finished. Okay, fair enough. It wasn't a great Kerry team, so he really stood out on that. And he's made a lot of progress already. I mean, don't forget 2 years ago he was playing for Killarney Celtic in the Kerry District League. So
so he's made a jump. You can argue already,
So there's no telling how far he might go. And it's an idea. You don't want to throw him into a situation as well where he's the number one striker, because I think you want to allow him a bit of time because that was the way it was even at Kerry as well. He wasn't initially the number one man there either. He found his way into that role. He grew into it. So it's the first link I've heard with Bows. I would have fancied maybe Cork to do this more if it was going to happen, just because it's a bit closer for him. I don't know what
the Kerry man couldn't go to Cork now, Sean.
Well, I mean, in fairness, they've had that's only LGA talk now. Polluting the League of Ireland with that kind of talk. But it's a really good. It would be a good fit, actually. I think because Colin Whelan himself is not a 100% certain thing to pan out. Bows with the history of injuries that he's had. So I think this could be a really good move. Really good move. I think if I had to give it a rating, I'm going to go for kind of upper mid range. I'm going to say about 7 out of 10. I think this would be that kind of move. Yeah,
and also from Bowles' point of view, surely it's better going for someone like that than going to the Japanese third division and then getting rid of that striker a couple of months later type thing.
Well, they did score 2 goals for him against Rovers, so I mean, he's probably a Bowles cult hero now.
Cult hero at this point, isn't he? In fairness,
he would be the kind of guy. If it doesn't pan out, this season, you're going to get fellas in the stands at Dalymount saying, why didn't we keep his pick?
Exactly, that's the thing. Look, Sean, brilliant. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant stuff. Guys at home, let us know what you think in the comments. Would you like to see any of these players at your club? Give us a rating out of 10. Subscribe to the channel. And once again, thanks for watching. Lovely, Sean. Thank you.
Cheers, Keith.